Welcome back to the show.
I kind of want this jam on my playlist.
Say again.
I kind of want this jam on my playlist, to be
I'll
honest.
send it. I'll send it to you.
Thank you. I want to listen.
Welcome back to the show. How you feeling? First of all, 2 grits in 1 week. Boom. And you were sick last time we recorded. How you feeling?
Hammertown still lingering in the disease. It's lingered so long now that I'm like thinking, uh-oh, is this not the common cold? Is this the dreaded COVIDs or something else? But I don't think so. I think it's
Would
just me being
what
dumb.
would it actually require for you to go to the doctor to find out?
Oh, I'd have to be dead.
If you're dead, I don't think they take you to the doctor.
Yeah, I'll take me to the morgue. Yeah, there is no way because whatever it is, I know it's nothing anyone can do about it. It's just some kind of virus,
True.
and so it doesn't matter. Like knowing what it is doesn't. But maybe I'm through it. Maybe I'm feeling better right now, even as we're speaking.
I I have the remedy for you. It's just geography divides us too far for me
I
to hand
know.
it off.
I know. I know. I think it's my last. I think I haven't done that yet. I've just been eating what I want instead of what I should. So I think today I'm going to go get myself a closest thing I can to a David Lee Scales chicken noodle soup. I'll go get myself a chicken pho and instantly heal.
Pho, ramen would be good. Um, Anything that's made from bone broth is what you want.
Yep, that's what I'm doing.
So, a couple of things. I got a big show actually, but the biggest news. This is the biggest news story that I've seen in a long time. I've had 20 people DM it to me, and it's the Louis Vuitton Surf collaboration, which
Sure
isn't even a
is.
news story, but for some reason, people seem to care about it.
Yeah, I've been gotten that DM as well. The only thing that I've gotten more than the Louis Vuitton fashion show, surf themed fashion show, is some meme account did one that said we ranked all the Grateful Dead albums and they all came in last. I got that sent a lot.
So then we need to go visit Britt Merrick once again and have the Grateful Dead debate or the Great Dead debate part two, which is can you vouch for the albums?
Yeah,
Because he was vouching for
the live
experience,
experience.
the
Yep.
live experience, and that's all you ever hear anybody talk about. But Britt Merrick, can you vouch for the albums?
But let's go back to Louis Vuitton. This is important. Okay, so like I saw it and I was like, great, right? It's every like this made all the sense in the world to me at multiple levels in terms of a fashion regularly, especially for ready to wear lines, regularly dips into not regularly, I suppose, but every now and again dips into a surf motif. Be it, I think Dior did a real surf heavy show, might have been surf skate heavy show, and Hedi Slimane was creative director. Yeah, it's like it's not. It happens all the time, and then of course Pharrell just started a wave pool out in Virginia Beach, has very clear ties to surf and always has, right? Like the wife is buddies with Pharrell. He's always had a action sports kind of vein in him. So all of it makes sense. And I can't tell are from the DMs are the ones I've been getting are just look at this, which I'm like, yeah, cool. But are you getting DMs of like, I can't believe they're cooking it this bad, or isn't this cool that Louis Vuitton is recognizing us and our little world?
I don't think anybody said that. I think that for the most part, people are supportive. First of all, because I think because they incorporated professional surfers and real surf kind of industry players in the campaign and even hired them to run the campaign. So I think that they appreciate that. It's not just poaching off the culture, it's hiring from the culture and actually redistributing some money into the culture. So I think people are happy about that.
Desperately needed.
Yeah, totally. I The only kickback that I've seen isn't that they did a kooky job with the campaign. The kickback I've seen is that we don't want to be associated with this as surfers. Like this is core score down for surfing basically because it's taking it and making it mainstream.
Yeah, but let's be honest. And as I experienced in Imswain, surrounded by massive packs of European beginners, culture's dead, man. No, nobody cares. Nobody cares. And being the last crusty dude holding on to this is the way we used to do things. Like I've stopped caring too. I used to be like, I'll carry that flame, and I'm glad the institutions that do carry that flame, kind of the Surfer's Journal or the various surf culture history museums. I think there's one in Florida, one in California. These kinds of institutions, right, to remember what surfing was, but it is all 100% in the past now. The book cover is closed. No.
I was going to make the argument that all of this happens outside of surfing. Whatever's happening in a wave pool actually isn't even part of surfing. Whatever's happening on the runway for Louis Vuitton is not part of surfing. What's happening in the water is surf culture. But then I have to consider what you're saying, which is at a surf resort in Morocco, that's all happening in the water. And that is equally as kooky as any other example, I guess.
I mean, it's done. We lived through, surfing or surf culture. 1960 born, or whenever you want to say it was born. Maybe let's say it was born 1955 Malibu in terms of a culture, right?
Sure.
So born 1955, died 2020. We could say it died right after COVID. Died 2022. And that's it. There's no more surf culture. It's dead.
I think surf culture used to be a monolith and now it isn't. I
Yeah,
think
exactly.
it's now a bunch of different things to different people.
Precisely. And but in order for it to be a culture, you have to have a monolith, right? There has to be shared understanding of what this culture is. There's no more shared understanding of what that culture is. The shared understanding of what that culture should be to the grouchy local is not the same as what it is anymore, right? Because that's not the way people consider surfing. People consider surfing as much a Louis Vuitton fashion show as they do, looking out at the lineup. I mean, it really hit me, and not in a negative way. It hit me, I think, positively of the fight is over. There's no more us being grouchy and cranky and people should learn. You should learn the etiquette. You should learn how not to drop in on someone, which I feel is being taught. I saw that actually being taught by a surf coach. There was some, did I talk about this already?
No.
There was some, was out a couple weeks ago, Cardiff by the Sea, where I surf. And I saw an older dude with a handsome, fit, younger dude. And I was like, this is a really weird dynamic because they don't seem like they would be friends. And there's clearly not a son-father. I was trying to figure it out. And then I realized, oh, this is a rich older dude who hired this handsome young dude as his surf coach. And so I was close enough, and I was, obviously doing the various weighing in on how I felt about that. And as I got closer and I could hear, I heard young, handsome surf coach tell him, hey, dude, you can't paddle back out the middle right here. You're getting in people's way if you do that. You've got to go around. You got to come around, see where those people, there's nobody over there. So you paddle down, and then that's how you come out. He was giving him proper, and there was multiple of those, proper etiquette instruction. And I was like, well, heck yeah, young, handsome man. You're doing the workout here, right? And so in terms of etiquette in the lineup, yes. In terms of anything else, in terms of we surfers do this, we surfers don't do this, nope, all of it's dead.
I think I wanted to argue against it. I wanted to find out an alternative kind of explanation, but I think you're right. The singular culture with shared ideology and etiquette agreement, all that kind of thing, is out the window at this point, and it is just all diffused into a bunch of different communities. I mean, it kind of, you could mark the breaking point as just the ride anything movement. It's now there's just people who are riding all different types of boards, so they're idolizing different types of surfers. They all come from different communities. They all ride different styles of waves. It's all just different things.
It's different things. And that, back in the day, back in our day, right? If we paddled out in the lineup and got vibed by somebody, or the time, I should say not if, when we paddled out in the lineup and got vibed, we knew why we were getting vibed, more or less, right? Oh man, or had a general feeling. Now you can't even vibe anybody in the lineup because they would be like, well, nobody would, it's like you're speaking, it's Tower of Babel out there. Everyone is speaking different languages.
It's totally true. I had this feeling. I watched the latest How Surfers Get Paid episode. It's about big wave surfing. And that was my initial thought watching it is this is a totally different sport to me.
Yeah.
And so much so that I focus my entire life around studying and watching and participating in surfing. And yet these world records that have been broken over the last decade and a half or two, I'm only vaguely aware of. Like I needed Stab to educate me on who Sebastian Steutner was and who Carlos Burle was and what year they won which title. Because I'm like, I'm paying attention under a microscope and yet I don't even know anything about this thing. And I probably have been judgmental about it. I probably think I'm more hardcore surfer than Carlos Burle, which is insane, you know, because he is way more of a badass hardcore surfer than I ever was.
Yeah. But also, it's essentially a different thing entirely, right? Like going to ride those big waves and the way you approach those big waves, having a team, having a rescue team, having skis and, tow partners and da. It is as different, I think, from me, walking on a hill, like going on a small walk around the park that has elevate, what, 10 degrees or 10 feet of elevation to it, comparing that to people, hiking or climbing Everest.
And I mean, yes, to illustrate your point, those surfers literally don't even paddle.
Yeah.
You can't lay on the board to paddle because there's foot straps in it. They literally do not paddle. That's how different it is.
And they have massive, even if they're not getting, I mean, even the ones who are paddling with all the flotation devices and stuff like that, it's like bizarre. It's like it's a different kind of paddling, even when they do paddle.
Well, let's get into just a little bit the actual fashion show itself. The players would be Pharrell, as you mentioned. The main storyline, I think, is that he hired this kid from from Los Angeles named Brick Howes. I actually interviewed Brick when he first started surfing on Surf Splendor. So if you want to go back and listen to that, probably 5 or 6 years ago. And he's built quite the personality. I don't know that you could even call it a business, but he has this Ebony Beach Club where they host these beach parties and they do surf lessons. I don't know that they're charging for any of it. He makes his living, it seems, in the music industry. But basically, Pharrell tasked Brick to create and direct this entire fashion show, which is an unbelievable opportunity for him. And then, so set design, concept-wise, all of it was his vision. And then he also tapped his surf community friends to walk the runway as models. So in that list, you have pro surfer named Julian Williams. You have Michael February is probably the most notable. So I think all of that is really cool. Again, bringing in surfers to make some money off of this. But then also, like, I don't pay attention to the fashion world at all unless it creeps into my awareness. But whenever I've watched have seen these fashion shows, they seem over the top extravagant and flamboyant. To me, this seemed really well executed. The set design, first of all, I thought was incredible, and then like conceptually incredible, and then executed incredible. And the fashion itself, I was like, this is all cool. This is not offensive to me in any way. And I can see the connection to beach culture. It's not like it looks just beachy enough, but still high fashion enough to where like I would never wear it myself. Even if I could afford it, I would never buy it and wear it. But I can see the drawing from the beach culture themes in the fashion, but it wasn't so flamboyantly fashionable that you wouldn't wear it in New York City or something.
Completely. In every review, I've read a handful of reviews of both the collection and of the show itself, and they've all been positive, right? So, pointing to exactly what you're saying, and these are fashion publications, not surf publications, but the fashion publications even appreciating the authentic ties to beach culture that appeared in the collection.
So, did you see the controversy about the knockoff Vans shoes that Pharrell released?
I did not.
So, I don't think these were part of the fashion show, but they actually announced them like 2 days before the fashion show. Pharrell dropped on Instagram in collaboration with Louis Vuitton these, low profile rubber sole, simple canvas shoe, essentially, that is very, very, very similar looking to the authentic Van classic shoe. Um, and so the internet kind of went to war, like calling them, calling them out for ripping them off. Then Van's social media team got involved and basically just threw fuel on the fire by joking about it. Like their take was very, very playful, and then they posted things with their shoes saying the authentic original that other people try to copy and kind of stuff like that. So Vans is having fun with it. But any thoughts on Pharrell ripping it off? The
No, I
design.
mean, I think that that is such a, what certain things, for better or worse, for the originators, just become ubiquitous. And that Vans silhouette has jumped Vans, right? I think it's anybody who makes a plastic strip that is used to cover up a cut on your arm. It's going to look like a Band-Aid, right? Band-Aid, of course, is TM Band-Aid. Everything else looks basically like a Band-Aid because it just has, it is what it is. It's like, I feel that's that Van silhouette. Yes, they invented it. Credit to them for doing it. But it's just, it's become a Band-Aid.
So in the contra, or when I've seen the banter back and forth, what I saw is that Vans actually did not invent it. Like there was a boat shoe,
Yeah, there's CVs or something. There's like
CV. Yeah.
a bunch of different of that canvas silhouette. So exactly. So that makes the point even more moot, I suppose, in terms of that is a universally existing style of canvas shoe that has been very, I mean, I have a Saint Laurent version that looks basically exactly like a Van.
Well, congratulations to Brick. This seems
Huge
like,
congrats.
I mean, this seems like this kid, he is young. He's like probably in his mid 20s. He's earned the access to this opportunity, but there's a lot of people who earn it and then never ever get the opportunity. So he got the opportunity and then absolutely hit it out of the park.
Well,
So
and I guess back to the original conversation of surf culture being dead because there's no monolith. I'm happy that, in its death, now it's become fertilizer. And if surf culture can fertilize people like Brick, then how much better are we?
I think there's probably a lot of other examples of somebody who came from surf culture and tried to fertilize mainstream or high fashion or whatever, but swung and missed,
Yeah.
you know? So I think that I don't understand his space that he plays in, but I think that he probably does have a lot of talent and that's the reason why he's succeeding at it.
The one last note on this one, I've never once seen it done right or well, and I think it's impossible because wetsuits look horrible unless they're in the water. Like there was a couple wetsuits going down and obviously this has happened. I've seen this multiple times. Louis Vuitton did not throw a wetsuit down the runway for the first time in fashion. I've seen a lot. It always looks so goofy, and you realize just how goofy the wetsuit is outside of the water.
I didn't see that they had wetsuits in this show.
Yeah, they sent somebody down in a classic monogrammed, light brown or brownish Louis Vuitton wetsuit.
Well, my final thought on this is just that Michael February has emerged as really one of the most influential and impressive surfers of this generation.
Absolutely.
His surfing is admired by all. I mean, literally, I've never heard a detractor. From hipster icons like Alex Nost, they bow down to Febs, to Kelly Slater, to Italo, like all of them love Febs. He's kind, he's likable as anybody that I've ever met. He was on the championship tour, so he's kind of proven to perform at that level. And then additionally, he's just always kind of stuck to his own program. Like he's not really I mean, maybe you can identify DNA that influenced him, but he's absolutely like doing things his way.
Man, and like just that style, that singular style to, I mean, I feel like, it's not even, yeah, or I guess we can call it generational. Like he's a once in a generation unique character, right? He is like Tom Curran-esque in that of where I feel so many, as much as I either like or don't like watching, Conor O'Leary or Ethan Ewing or the real great surfers on the CT. You can't say that they have, sure, they have their own, Ethan Ewing has his own style, but it's not like this hard stamp that is the Michael February's.
Well, the Michael February style of surfing, yes, you're right, is unique, but it's his entire aura. It's like if you were creating a brand identity, you couldn't do a better job than he does. Like, I don't know that I would identify Ethan Ewing's style in the water as the same guy that I see standing on the beach. And then if he was on the beach, I would think he was a rugby player, actually,
Yeah.
But then when he's in his post heat interview and he has the Billabong hat on, and Billabong right now is using like their old '90s graphics that are so freaking ugly. So he's wearing that Billabong hat with like a monster logo smashed over the other side of it, and I'm like, God, it's like a disconnect from he's such a nice, likable person and stylish in the water, but then you're using this branding that is just doesn't fit with him, But I
Yeah.
like him and I accept it and I know he needs to make a living. So I just kind of let it all fly by. February is like this perfect encapsulation where the brands that he promotes or partners with, plus his style on land, plus the clothing he wears, plus the style in the water, plus the music he plays in his videos, like it's all a perfect brand package. I mean, I think it's authentic, ultimately, is what it is.
I wonder if Michael February's program would have gone off the rails if he had a crappy name. If his name was like Jeremiah Hedberg, something like that. Like where, because his name, even Michael February, is such one, like it's a perfect name to go with the perfect package.
I mean, this truly has held Matt McGillivray back big time.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Matt McGillivray, sorry about it.
He had an
Ethan Ewing, too.
opportunity to rebrand a while back and he didn't. And I think it's too late for him now, unfortunately.
Yep. Sorry about it.
Well, last week we had a conversation about Jay Moriarty and said that his cover shot at Mavericks may be the best of all time. And guess what? People started sending me in their favorite covers.
Let's go through some of them. David Lee Scales, can we?
Let's do it. I came prepared. And then I've got a hot take after I show you some of these covers. So, hold on, please. All right, I know you could see it, but I have the wrong thing pulled up on my end. Okay, here we go. So here we have, this one came in from a listener, actually, and I know this isn't Surfer Magazine. This is Surfing Magazine.
The better of the two.
Is it, you think?
Yeah.
Well, can you name, first of all, it's in the mid 80s. I didn't identify the exact date of this magazine. I'd be super impressed if you could identify the surfer by name. And then if you can't, I hope you can identify the surf spot. And then I'd be shocked if you could identify the photographer. I won't test you on all of them, but I'll test you on this one.
Is it Rocky Wrights?
No. It would be north of there.
Is it VLand?
No.
Where is it?
Sunset Bowl. Inside Sunset.
Yeah, I would have never gotten that.
So-
and the surfer up and riding is Garrett McNamara.
No. Matt Mondragon.
Never would have gotten that.
Well, I know you wouldn't. Matt Mondragon, I think his name would be lost to time if it wasn't for this insane cover shot that he got on Surfing Magazine, which was shot by Aaron Chang, by the way.
Nice.
So this came in from a listener, and I was like, "You're right. I have seen this cover, but I never like cemented it into my memory. But this is a phenomenal cover.
Really good.
Here's a better shot of it. This is the actual slide image without all the branding of the cover, but incredible shot and an incredible display of sunset. Another one came in from the photographer himself, Mark McGinnis.
Man, I remember Mark McGinnis when he first came up, or when his it was a real good time for surfer, or the union was nice because how clean, look at how clean that all is, right? Unlike the the Jay Moriarty shot. Like this is all one piece, and Mark McInnes's just that style, right? Where this is the first time this happened all of a sudden, where background and foreground are equal star to action.
Well, and the graphics got out of the way.
Yeah,
Like there's been different, obviously, graphic art directors for the magazines, and that last cover that I showed had a lot of graphics on it. This really allows the photography, I think, to be front and center. So, Mark, great submission. Volume 60, issue 3 of Surfer Magazine. So then, as I was poking around looking for covers, I realized the aforementioned from last episode, Grant Ellis, who's the current photo editor at the Surfer's Journal, was with Surfer for a long time, and he actually wrote an article for Surfer where he listed his 25 favorite covers. So the next batch of covers I'm going to show you are direct from Grant himself. And I'm not going to show you all 25 because I got to say, a lot of them I did not feel were worthy submissions.
I think it's the problem when you get the person who's too much of an expert at something. His taste or her taste is so refined that it doesn't quite reflect the common man's, heart impulse with or natural impulse when seeing something for the first time. Because he's looking at things through such a critical, technical lens. Having stared at these forever too, I think it just, at some point it blows out.
Well, a couple of them were like artistic illustrations, like literal illustrations, not a photograph, and I'm like, and he had a reason for why he thought that was important and contextually to the culture at that time. But I'm like, bro, that can't be the best cover shot of all time. I can understand it being
interesting
and influential and important in the moment, but that's not the best of all time. You gotta be kidding.
Grant.
All right, Grant.
Pull it in, Grant.
All right, here we go. This is a classic from 1967. This is Lance Carson at Rincon, I believe. It could be Malibu, but I think it's actually Rincon. And you know what? I made notes about who shot these. I want to say Leroy Grant. Oh, Ron Stoner. This is a Ron Stoner image.
Okay, great. Good.
Jerry Lopez at Pipeline. How can you argue with that?
Classic.
It's a classic. Let me see if I can find my notes real quick. No. Nope.
I wonder if Ron Stoner was in the Epstein files.
Ron Stoner?
Yeah.
Why would he have been?
Didn't Ron Stoner, I think, isn't he the one that had ran off with a very young teenage bride?
Did he really?
I think so. Is Ron Stoner the one who went crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he had a young teenage bride somewhere in there.
Huh. Good to know. Kelly Slater shot by Herbie Fletcher in Cabo.
Don't really love it.
I wouldn't have guessed that one either.
Nope.
I think it's worth putting up because it's interesting. It's a deviation from a classic. Here we have Tom Curran in France. I forget who shot this one.
Any Tom Curran. Can't go wrong with TC.
I mean, it's tight. It's a different style of photo, but I like it. Of course, Duke Kahanamoku. This was, if I remember the story correctly, Evan Slater campaigned hard for this Duke portrait, which was pulled out of an archive in Hawaii from some museum in Hawaii. Like, I had never seen this image before. We've seen kind of the same images of Duke recycled over and over. This was one that I had not seen before. And they actually chose to put this on the cover of the big issue, which, by the way, look I happen to have this OG copy right
Look
here.
at that.
And I forgot, actually, I have the Lance Carson issue right here, too.
Oh, sweet. Look at you.
Yeah, I know. Got all these in the flesh. So anyways, I remember the story was Evan Slater campaigning hard for this, and like most of the magazine decision makers being against it because they wanted an action shot, but ultimately he won, and then it went on to become like the greatest selling issue of all time.
Good job, Evan.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's great, and Surf magazine covers were I both loved this about them, but also loved when they did twist it, right? And because they were all basically similar. Like 9 out of 10, even 19 out of 20. Let's even go 29 out of 30. Surf magazine covers were basically the same. It was an action shot, right? And so, action shot in color. And so anytime they went either black and white or not an action shot. There was real gravitas to it, but I felt that they never wasted. They were not like, oh, this sold big. Now let's go do black and white profile pics on every single issue.
Well, I'm glad you said that. I mentioned earlier I have a controversial take. I'm going to give it to you after we go through the Surfer Mag covers, because that kind of ties into what I was thinking too, or the conclusion that I come to. Timmy Turner from Feral Thoughts at a spot called Apocalypse in Indonesia. Do you remember that?
Yeah, the Timmy Turner, I remember reading those in real time, right? Reading about the adventures, and they seem cool. Like, I was like, oh, these guys are going feral on a surf adventure. Somehow it didn't, the impact of it, and yeah, didn't land until later. Those guys were legit surf explorers, and to go get a wave like that and a photo like that when you're literally basically off the grid, wildly impressive.
So, this is for anybody listening to this, the audio version. I'm showing the photos on YouTube. So if you want to go over to YouTube, check it out. This was 2002, by the way. So I want to say that film was called Feral Thoughts. Do you remember watching the film associated with this photo?
Oddly, no. I don't think I ever did watch the film. I just read, because I feel they were doing dispatches for Surfer at the time. So every issue I feel had another dispatch from the field. And so I was caught up in their story in that way.
So there's been obviously a lot of people surfing and exploring Indonesia for much longer than before Timmy Turner went there. He was with buddies Travis Potter and Brett Schwartz. And the thing that was different about that video and that trip was that they were roughing it. Like, they went and camped out on the beach, and it's unbearably hot, malaria ridden, mosquitoes, all that kind of thing. You had to get your own food. They were like removed from all civilization, camped out on the edge of this reef waiting for the waves to get good. But they only got like a couple good days of waves over the course of a month or two. So it's a lot of sitting and waiting in miserable conditions. And that's what they documented and really showcased and revitalized that kind of adventurous spirit in the viewing audience. One of the memorable scenes was that they killed a goat in order to eat it. Like, they brought a goat, I think, so that they could have the opportunity to kill it if they needed to, and I think drink the milk. But then they got to the point of starvation, or they just got sick of eating like rice and fish and fruit, to where they ultimately filmed themselves killing and eating the goat. And the other thing was, when the waves got good, sometimes the tide was too low, and it was like razor sharp reef, and they're far removed from any medical help. So they actually wore wetsuits. They were like in 100-degree weather, 83-degree water, wearing a 3-2, surfing with booties on and a helmet, just to preserve their well-being. So anyways, really, really good film series and series of articles that came out of the magazines. Kelly Slater, I think this is actually shot by Grant himself at J-Bay speed blur style.
Sounds like I'm being rude about Kelly Slater, but like, this is cool. If I saw this as a picture, it'd be cool, but I don't like it as a cover.
2004. This is the one that I was referencing last week that I tried to explain to you. This is a fisheye, Todd Glazer swimming, and Greg Long backdooring this crazy barrel on a pink Christensen.
Love it.
I mean, that one honestly stands. I stand by it.
Yeah, that is a cover right there.
Yeah, and it was a fold out too. Connor Coffin at J-Bay. Actually, this I think is the Grant Ellis photo. The one of Kelly at J-Bay wasn't. This is Connor at J-Bay.
That's a solid photo.
It's a freaking classic, right?
Yep.
Jeff Devine, cover of Buttons at V-Land, giving the peace sign.
I'd say that's one of the 10 most iconic surf shots ever.
I agree. Deserves the cover.
Yep.
Chris Burkhart, 2014 in Alaska. Josh Mulcoy doing an off the top.
Always liked Mark McMinnis better than Burkhart.
There you go. Woody Woodsworth, California on Crazy El Nino swell.
Yeah, great shot, but don't like it as a cover.
So again, all of these were Grant's, I think about 20 of, or maybe 15 of Grant's 25 submissions. Do they compete with the Jay Moriarty?
No, they don't. And did Grant not include the Jay Moriarty?
He did not.
Grant, pull it together, man.
I again, this just being able to see those in sequence, then see this is iconic.
It's, I mean, it's a entirely different species than the others.
Yeah. So here's another noteworthy submission. I couldn't find a high res. Here's a low res with it in the background of Dan Malloy. But here's the actual high res image itself of Dan Malloy in Japan on a cyclone swell shot by Chris Burkhardt, which I thought is just an incredible turn and an incredible photo.
Incredible.
So I talked to Burkhardt about this, and he said, you remember on the spine of Surfer magazine, there's a little icon image, like it shows the date of the magazine, the name of the magazine, the volume, and then there's a little icon silhouette of a surfer doing a turn.
Yep.
That surfer doing the turn is Tom Curran, the famous Tom Survey photo of Tom Curran at Off the Wall or Backdoor. Burkhardt told me that they had that little icon for 20 or 30 years on the spine of the magazine, and they were actually going to change it with this Dan Malloy. They were going to update it to this Dan Malloy silhouette instead.
Whoa, did they not?
I don't think that they ultimately ended up doing it, but that was the move, or that was up for consideration.
It's a really great, I mean, the symmetry of that shot, the spray matching almost exactly the lip is, yeah, it's a very cool shot.
It's a great shot. So anyways, my controversial thought was, honestly, there's a lot of very mediocre Surfer magazine cover shots. I went through, fine-tooth combed, tons of them, and had a hard time coming up with my favorites because they're all, like you said, kind of similar, and none really jump out. And then these are the ones that I came up with, and I'm like, none of these necessarily are phenomenal. Like, they're good photos, obviously, and better than the other photos in the magazine at that time, but they don't necessarily become iconic.
I mean, so I think a couple things here. As the editor of Living Large at Surfer Magazine, I got to be in the editorial meetings once a week for probably a year and a half-ish. I was there. And obviously my opinion was not being consulted on to what the cover shot should be. But those conversations, right? They are so granular. They were always so, because you have, the Pete Terraces and the Jimmy Wilsons and these guys whose eye is so finely tuned that they're looking. It'd be like going into a museum, and you have the people who are appreciating, the very difficult to understand high art, and you have the people who are appreciating, the pastel landscapes, easy to understand, right? And I feel you and I've looked at surf magazines longer than most, so we're not quite in the just looking at dumb art crowd, but these guys are, they're so highly trained. And while I feel the covers look similar to us, again, it's like saying, oh, all jazz music sounds the same or something, where you have these guys saying, are you kidding me? It's but it's tiny nuance that they're looking at.
Fair enough. However, in my research, I stumble upon the Surfer's Journal. And I go, holy cow, they crush Surfer magazine in terms of cover shots. Every single one, even the duds, are better than the Surfer magazine's kind of iconic ones. And I'm going to pull up some examples to illustrate.
So I think a couple things here, though, is once every 3 months versus
Surfer's Journal, I don't know.
What is it? I think it's every three.
I want to say every 2 months.
Really?
I don't know, man.
Whatever.
They've adjusted it over time, so I don't know what it's currently at. Bi-monthly. It's bi-monthly.
Okay, so once every 2 months versus once every month is one thing. Number two is I feel the Surfer's Journal reader is one, whereas the Surfer magazine reader was diffuse, right? I think you had kids reading it, you had teenagers reading it, you had whatever. Surfer's Journal is just, they can go for a singular vision because there's basically a singular reader.
I think their vision is singular, and I think that Surfer magazines was diffused to satisfy a bunch of different advertisers.
So A+, Craig Ando at No Can Dewey.
Crazy, right? I mean,
Yeah.
this is just one. And I was like, wow, okay, let me look at some others. This is a low res image, but John Florence at Haleiwa, massive hack.
Yep.
Ballroom Stack. I don't know where that is, Mexico probably. I don't know who this is, somebody in Central California. Just each one totally distinct,
Yep.
totally different. Mike February close up, like not even showing the board or the wave itself. That's a
Really
wildly
cool shot.
divergent.
Yeah, you're right. Surfers. I mean, maybe just Grant. Craig, is that Craig Ando again?
Craig Ando, how sick is that?
That's a beautiful shot. Maybe Grant Ellis really came into his own at the Surfers Journal. How long has he been the? I mean, it was Jeff Devine before Ellis.
Yeah, I mean, they've always had a very I think that the brand's identity has always remained the same regardless of who is at the helm.
Yeah,
Look at, I mean, how sick is that shot?
absolutely. So who is that, Dane?
I don't know who that is.
That's an epic shot.
Yeah. Noah Dean, way
Yeah,
back in the day. Such a sick one. Parallel stance and a little inside Kira barrel, maybe.
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know who this is or who shot this one, but insane photo.
yeah.
So shout out Surfer's Journal coming in clutch.
Well, and happy, like, look at the only one to survive, the only magazine that is still with us to this day, Surface Journal. Maybe they just, because they had better covers.
I'm really impressed. I mean, like as I've been going through it, I'm like, well, what does make a good cover then? And I'm like, it has to represent the visceral surf experience. Like I have to, as a surfer, look at something that only I could recognize that resonates with my surf experience, right? But then the challenge is it has to be fresh to me as well.
Yeah,
And so that's where it's like that is the crux of the perfect cover shot is I see something as a surfer that my wife wouldn't see in that cover shot that makes me connect with it, but also something brand new that I've never seen before. So each of those angles of each of those photos that I showed you was distinct from the other and a totally unique perspective. It was just, yeah, so it's a very, very difficult needle to thread.
it would be an interesting experiment to take a stack of Surface Journal, a stack of surfer magazines, a stack of stabs from back in the day, a stack of surfing, take them to like Times Square in New York and lay them out and have people pick the most dynamic images amongst them, like see what the non-surfing public is attracted to.
I think Surfer's Journal would win it in that
I
scenario.
mean, I would imagine too.
Yeah, it
It's so
stands.
timeless too. That's the thing. Even the Surface Journal, they're like older model masthead and all that kind of stuff. None of it's like kind of super offensively dated, like surfing in 1988. Well, not that it's offensive. It just is. Surfing always was a product of its time, and so Surfer, I think, tried to be less a product of its time, but was also. Surfer's Journal feels not never a product of its time.
It's timeless.
Yep,
Shall we go to pros in the wild?
sure should.
All right. Hey, around 2009, I was living in Margaret River, Western Australia. Officially, I was there studying winemaking. Although, if I'm honest, I spent just as much time surfing as I did studying. One rainy day, I headed back down to check my usual surf spot near Gas Bay. The swell was big and windy, and a handful of people were standing on the lookout rock, staring out at the ocean. As I stood there, I noticed a tall guy with a hoodie and Nike shoes turn towards me. In a Hawaiian accent, he asked, "Anywhere else looking any good?" I looked up and realized it was none other than Andy Irons, my favorite surfer. Trying to play it cool, I replied, "No, this is probably about it. Everywhere else will be too exposed." Andy went on to tell me that he and a group of surfers had been traveling up and down the coast, surfing different waves, and only had a few days left on their trip. As I walked back towards the car park, I spotted Shane Dorian, Donovan Frankenreiter, and several other well-known surfers gathered around a camper van. It suddenly dawned on me that this wasn't just a bunch of surfers on a road trip. It was the crew filming what later became Drive Through Australia. We all paddled out. The waves weren't good, but they made the most of the mediocre condition. They made the mediocre conditions look world class. After the session, I changed out of my wetsuit in the car when Andy leaned over out of the camper van window and said, Hey, bro, you want a beer? Yeah, I said. Sweet. He tossed me a beer, much to Aki's disgust, who questioned why he was giving away beers, to which Andy told him to chill out. And we ended up chatting for about 10 minutes. He was genuinely friendly, relaxed, and engaged in the conversation, while the other pro, quote unquote, surfers stayed very coy and not engaged with the growing crowd in the small car park area, whereas Andy took the time to to and complete talk to a complete stranger. I was just some random guy in the car park, yet he offered me a beer and a conversation as if we'd known each other for years. The brief interaction left a lasting impression on me. He was already one of my favorite surfers because of what he did in the water, but after meeting him, he became my favorite because of who he was out of it. Not long after, Andy passed away on my birthday, November 2nd. I've heard lots of stories about Andy over the years, and it shows how he really was the people's champ. Get barrel, Cam in New Zealand.
Yeah, good job, Cam. Thank you so much. I do believe it was Derek Riley who coined the People's Champ, calling Andy Irons the People's Champ. And yeah, Andy always, I think Derek did the last interview with Andy, I think there's audio of it. Maybe it's just in any case, Andy's last interview, but it's all about People's Champ and Andy loving to be the People's Champ.
Great story, man.
Fantastic.
Did you have any personal interactions with Andy?
I did. Yeah. They were all just fine and decent. Yeah, and it was nothing. I think I interviewed him a couple times for Stab. Yeah, and he was always real, I don't know, open, honest, and easy. But then I think a couple times I caught him like Bender style, where you could just tell he didn't want to be bothered at all.
Yeah, and that's fair.
Yeah.
I don't think I ever told you this, but he tried to cut in line in front of me at the bathroom one time.
Where?
It was at the Grove in Anaheim during one of the
Oh
big
yeah.
awards ceremonies. I think it was the XXL Awards or the Surfers Pole Awards. Do you know if they ever did the Surfer Pole there?
I'm pretty sure they did.
Then it was the Surfer Pole.
Okay. I
I
know they
want,
did double XL.
yeah, I know they did too, and that's why I thought it was the Surfer Pole. It's so long ago, but then I'm like, I don't think they ever did the Surfer Pole there, and I know they do the XXL thing there, and I went to a couple of those too. But like a buddy of mine worked in the industry. I must have been 20 years old, and a buddy of mine worked in the industry, and was able to get some tickets, and I was like, sweet, let's go. But the line at the bathroom was so long, and Kiala Kenley was in the women's line, and I was like next to Kiala in the men's line, and I was like next in line. And so Andy doesn't stand at the back of the line. He goes straight up to where I am at the front to talk to Kiala. And so they're rapping for a minute, and then somebody exits the men's room, and it's my turn to go in, and he just basically tries to cut in front of me. And of course, I knew who he was, and he was my hero, but I had to pee so bad that I didn't let him cut.
That's amazing.
I know. Like in hindsight, I'm like, of course I would have just let him go. Like, what are you going to tell him no? But I remember specifically, I told him no. I was like, put my arm out and blocked him. I'm like, hey, bro, I'm next in line. And I was wearing this orange shirt, and he made fun of my shirt. He was like, okay, orange shirt or something like that. And I was like, oh, and I got my feelings hurt and just went in there and like kept my head down while I peed.
That's amazing. That's a great story.
I know. And I mean, thankfully, if he wanted to like take it one step further, I totally would have just like backed down
Yeah.
and probably peed my pants. You know, the weird thing about peeing is like I could have held it for another 5 minutes if I was at the back of the line, but because you know that you're right there, or your weenie knows you're right, your bladder knows you're right there, you're like, have to go right now.
Absolutely. You cannot hold it anymore if you're proximity.
Like if you are walking to your door, you've been on the freeway holding it for 30 minutes, but as soon as you're walking to your door, it's coming.
I've almost gone in pants before, after holding it for 2 hours. But all of a sudden that just because I'm touching my doorknob of my house, like it's not going to wait for me to run the extra 40 feet to the bathroom.
You got to hit the bush in that
Yeah.
scenario.
I've done that before.
Me too.
Yeah.
So this was that scenario where it was like green lights already on, then Andy's trying to cut. And I was like, bro, I gotta go. He's like, okay, orange shirt. But this orange shirt, I had friends who had just sailed to the Galapagos and they gave me this orange shirt and it had like a turtle on it and it was Galapagos and I thought it was cool. I was like 20 years old and I thought it was cool. So I don't know. I'm like going to this fancy event and for some reason I wore like such a lame t-shirt and then he called me out on it.
That's amazing. That is a great story.
So another that made me think about I've also never told you this. I remember the first time I think I ever saw you, long before we knew each other, you were hosting a red carpet like Q&A at some film premiere in Long Beach.
Was it Point it wasn't Point Break 2. That was at the Grove.
This was at like a restaurant. The restaurant at the time was called Da Vinci's, and it was at like the small airport in Long Beach, not the
Yeah.
commercial airport, but there's like a private airport.
Yeah.
And it was during the U.S. Open. Whatever the brand was, rented out the venue and did the film premiere there. And there was a step and repeat. And I remember you were standing on the step and repeat, and I was like, "What's this guy wearing a suit for?" Like everybody else is in like sandals and shorts. This guy's like wearing a suit.
I wonder what film it was.
Was it? It could have been a Joe G film.
I don't think I would have. Could have been, I guess. Might have been. Man, those days. Those, like, it's sad that it's all dead. We talked about at the top of the show because those were fun evenings, right? I mean, I remember when there was a surf industry and when that surf industry held events, screenings, and parties, and you like, it was always a good time.
Dude, the US Open was like nonstop for a
Yeah.
week straight of just
No.
debauchery.
I mean, it was nonstop too of like tonight is this, tomorrow night is that, and then like folding always over into the Shorebreak Hotel, like closing down the Shorebreak, lobby bar, whatever, or the restaurant upstairs at, whatever early hour. I mean, those days don't happen. I don't even think the U.S. Open happens like that anymore, does it? I haven't been up there for years, but I think it's just it's not an industry party for sure anymore.
Zimzala.
Yeah, Zimzala. How many Zimzala is where I met Cersei at the Julian Wilson's Scratching the Surface premiere, which was at the, I think, Orange County Performing Arts Center. Uh, yeah, I mean, that was back then, this was 2009, maybe. This is when or 2010, I guess. It was 2010 when there was still money left. So Orange County Performing Arts Center, texted her I had a burner Australian phone that didn't receive text, but I could text out. And so texted her, "Hey, it was nice meeting you. I can't get text." And she called me right away. She's like, "What do you mean you can't get text?" So we set up a meeting at Zimzala later that evening.
Oh,
Awesome.
really? That's where you
Yeah.
guys met?
Yeah. I mean, we met at the Orange County Performing Arts. That's where we had our first conversation, but that's where the flame was really lit at Zimzala.
That is funny.
Yep.
Yeah, man, the good old days. I lived in Huntington through so much of that. Like you, I stopped going. Even when I lived there, I stopped going to the US Open at a certain point just to actually avoid all of the melee. But good times while they lasted.
Man, sure was. Like I took them for granted at the time, but the entire shore break, right, was just surfers. And like, I think for 2010, I was directing Who is JOB. So I think I had a room there for a couple night, or I think, I can't remember, but it was just like, not, it felt like weird surf college. Like I remember just walking in the halls and going into various people's rooms, and because it was just, everyone was, yeah, it was surf dorm.
It was, yeah. And that was the nice hotel, by the way. There was other hotels nearby for like all the B levels that were
Yeah.
equally debaucherous, probably more debaucherous actually. Nike rented out the crappy motel
I remember that. They did
and
that for a
then
couple years, I feel.
and rebranded it. Like they
Yeah.
actually rented the entire hotel. I want to say even painted. They definitely
Yeah.
put new signs up. They put new signage up. So I don't remember what the crappy motel was called, but it turned into the Nike No-Tell
6.0.
Motel.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nike 6.0 No-Tell Motel.
Yep.
So wild times, man.
Yep. Good nostalgia.
All right. Well, thank you, listener, for that Andy Irons submission, Cam in New Zealand. Oh, by the way, how good were the drive-through series?
So good. I forgot to even go there. I mean, I remember the first drive-through that I watched. I thought Donovan Frankenreiter was the funniest person on earth. I thought, like, whenever they came out, wherever they hit me and my surf evolution, I just thought it was like they got old for me quick. But the first Drive Through California was the first one, right?
Yep.
I just remember thinking Drive Through California I think it was Timmy Curran, Donovan Frankenreiter, Benji. Who else would have been on
Well,
there?
Greg Browning was making the
Greg
film,
Browning,
but he
yeah,
would
but
show up too.
he featured, yeah. But I just thought, oh, their witty repartee was just so good.
It was a precursor to social media. You got to see a peek behind the curtain, you know?
That's what it was. Everything else you saw was just prepackaged either video or interview article thing. And so seeing their like banter was fun.
Yeah, that I liked that one, but the one that really was the home run for me was the next one, which was Japan.
Oh yeah.
I knew California well and I liked California, but Japan was more exotic and so just more fun.
Yeah.
And I think Kalani Robb was in that one, who's funny as well. So, anyways, rest in peace, Greg Browning. Amazing contribution to surf culture. We loved it.
Absolutely.
You want a Veyer, Tools to Live By?
Sure do.
All right. I'll be very, very curious to hear your take on this one. DLS and Chaz, just occurred to me that the viral Subway Takes guy is basically just doing Barrel or Nah. Do you know the Subway Takes series?
No.
I didn't either when she wrote this email, but then I YouTubed it real quick and realized I have seen his work, and it is actually very good. But she goes on to say, so perhaps David and Chaz need to take Barrel or Nah out into the wild. Keep up the work. Also, this is a barrel or Nah or general inquiry that I'm currently wondering. I'm rebranding it as a Veyer Tools to Live By because I think this is where it should live. By the way, Veyer.com, VeyerWatches.com/surf.
You got a new Veyer?
This is going out to a listener, actually. I got a listener of Veyer because he's contributed so much good work to the show that I thought he deserved it.
Absolutely. Which Veyer did the listener get?
This one right here.
Beautiful. That's a classic.
Yeah, it's a classic. Let me see. It's the tactical field with the solar power.
The solar power is what? When did we first partner up with Veyer?
Years ago.
Got that watch years ago, has not missed a tick.
Crazy. Yeah, I think 6 hours of sunlight powers it for 6 months. So, and you don't even actually need sunlight. It can get powered off of your lights in your house too. Anyways, so yeah, listeners go benefit from that. But the listener goes on to write, I'm currently wondering, is there a cutoff as a woman to riding your bike in a bathing suit? I just dipped out of the office I work at and as usual, went up to the beach. It's a quick mile ride on a bike. I didn't plan on going all the way in the water, but I did have my bikini and it was gorgeous. Northeastern US, so water temps vary a lot in June and wind can make it much colder. This day was particularly warm, so I ended up jogging and going in for a little bit of a swim. I had no towel, and the tank top I had on is also what I'm wearing into work today. So I felt the only option was to ride my bike back to work in my bathing suit. For optics, I am petite, fit, kind of look like a girl, but also have had a few kids, so the abs are no longer rock hard. My question is it crude to do this? Is it a bad look? Is it disrespectful to my husband? How far from the beach can one ride before you are putting off society? Also, full disclosure, myself and my friends got beeped at constantly growing up in a beach town, riding around in bikinis as underage girls/teens, but this remarkably stops when you become a woman. Discuss, ? And then she goes on to say some other stuff, but we'll discuss first.
Okay, here we go. I think we can do a great service to society by actually putting a marker on this. And I'm going to say this is universal. This is not bikini, board short dependent. I'm going to say same rule applies to shirtless men in board shorts on a bike. Yeah?
Fair enough.
Okay. I think you can ostensibly ride shirtless, board short slash bikini. I'm going to say 20 blocks inland maximum.
I'm going to go 2 miles.
Can't be 2 miles is way too long. 2 miles, you got to put on, you got to cover up. After 20 blocks, you got to cover up. You're no
Okay.
longer near the beach.
Wait, I need to break this into different categories that I think are important that we have to factor into this. Distance from the beach is only one of the categories.
Yes.
Temperature matters. Because I am more than 2 miles from the beach, but if it's 95 degrees and there's a dude riding his bike without his shirt on, I understand that.
Do you though? Or do you think, man, a little decorum here?
Okay, so we'll get down to whether or not that's acceptable, but I think the temperature matters. Intensity of exercise, I think, matters. Bathing suit type matters. Like, because I think that,
Like if you're in a string bikini versus or if you're
yes,
in a pair of Speedos, if you're a dude,
correct,
versus board short and a action forward bikini.
correct. So we'll discuss that. And then the other thing is body type is up for consideration here as well. She mentioned her own body type. Now, I think some people would argue that you need to be fit or at least not unsightly to be scantily clad, but I think that's wrong. I actually think that there are lovers of all body types, on this planet, and there's probably even websites dedicated to each body type.
Only
So,
fans accounts dedicated as well, multiple.
exactly. So, as long as you qualify through these other criteria that we're setting out, then I think you're safe to flaunt it.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, but so here we go though. I think your 2 miles is just too far. I think
1.8.
I was just in Marrakesh in the souks where we did some good bartering. So I'm going to start you at 0.75.
I'm fine with 0.7. Wait. 0.75 or 1.75?
0.75.
No way. You're too close. So if you live a mile from the beach and you get three-quarters of the way home, you have to put a top on?
Yep, you should have started. You know you've got to start with the top at that point. You're not allowed to even ride that. If you're 0.75, okay, I'll meet you at a mile.
I think a mile
A
is
mile's a long way.
not on a bike.
It's a long way inland.
A
What is it?
mile on, a mile on a bike goes by quick. A mile on a bike goes by in 3 minutes.
A mile on a bike?
You're more than a mile from the beach.
No,
You're at the 1 mile mark.
I think I'm well under a mile, to be honest. I mean, from as the flow cry, as the crow flies, I am well less than a mile. As the route to get there, it would be probably a mile.
Okay, here's what I'm saying is this girl, she goes swimming at the beach. She's in her bikini. She hops on her bike. She's going back to work. If somebody sees her at the 1.1 mile mark, they're not going to be confused as to why she's in a bikini coming away from the beach. They're going to know this girl in the bikini is coming from the beach going to her next stop.
Yeah, but when you're over a mile, the person's also wondering, well, how far is this person riding in a bikini away from the beach? She's pretty far now. Do I trust her that she's not 5 miles away from the beach?
The other issue that she's going to run into is you're drying off at a rapid pace. And if the temperature is 90 degrees or up, like I said, once that transition happens, you're now sweating,
Yeah,
which
that's
is going to
true.
be problematic putting that tank top on to go back into work. So that's where I will give you a little bit of leeway is at the 2 mile plus mark, you're absolutely sweating and it becomes
Yeah.
a problem. But I think that there's somewhere between a mile and 2 miles that you're still in the safety range.
Okay, I will give just like the odometer in the car, right? Or not the odometer, sorry. What's the RPM gauge in the car where you have like red things that are spaced when you start to get into the danger zone and then they get really close at the end, right? And so I'm going to say the 2 mile mark, it's solid red. Yeah, we're just treating it like RPM. Down it, the I'll give you the red mark start at 1 I'll give you 1.5. The red marks start at 1.5 miles. And then
So
they get every point you drive, you pass that, you're still, your car's not going to break, but you're really putting stress on it.
each revolution of the pedal is more stress. So
Yeah.
you at the 1 mile mark, you're safe. But if
Yep.
you continue to go on with that, it's at your own discretion. And we will factor in bathing suit type, temperature, and a couple of other factors.
There we go. Okay, so I will give you your 2 miles there. I'll give you your 2 miles. 1 mile, you're safe. 2 miles, at the 2 mile mark, you're no longer safe. Between 1 and 2, discretion, but be careful.
Bathing suit type. So this is where I feel like it needs to cover as much as your underwear. And the conversation that she was asking is it offensive to society at a certain point? You know, when you're on your bike away from the beach, is it offensive to the society? I think if your bathing suit covers as much as your underwear, you're in safe territory.
In safe territory, still though, with the mileage marker being taken into account.
Correct. But I'm saying that if you are even within the 1 mile mark, if it's a string bikini and we can almost see nipple, I think that becomes
It's
a
uncouth.
problem for society.
And it's just not, riding a bike is an action sport, right? Like you are moving your legs, and we're not talking e-bike here, are we?
She didn't specify.
Let's focus on the pedal bike here specifically. And so you're working, right? And a string bikini, or you're participating in a sport. A string bikini is not for sport.
So that brings me to intensity of exercise. Because, like I said, if I'm away from the beach and I see somebody who's jogging and it's 90 degrees, but they also have like the band that goes around their chest that's measuring something. I don't even know what that measures.
What do those things measure?
I have no idea.
Yeah.
Clearly, and they're like committed, this person runs 8 miles a day or whatever. It's like, I have no qualms about them having their shirt off and having particularly short shorts, like running shorts, because they're committed to this. This is like a lifestyle that they're committed to. Who am I to say anything?
Yeah.
But I've also seen the dude who's just showing off the six pack, and it's 70 degrees outside, and he's at a slight jog, and I'm
Yeah.
like, dude, put your shirt on. What are you trying to do here? So I think that intensity. And by the way, flip side of this, there was a girl for a couple of weeks who was walking kind of our main road in the morning when I was driving Austin to school, who would wear like these booty short, and it was bright pink. She had like these booty short, super tight, pink, and bright pink, and then bright pink socks pulled all the way up, and like a yoga top, like a whatever bikini type yoga top. You could not look at her. And then my wife takes Austin to school one day and she comes back. She goes, you would not believe this woman I saw out on the road. Like, what is she doing? And she's just at a slight walk. She's not even like jogging, And we're like, man, she is trying to get attention. Like, she's solely doing this for the point of attention. Never got to the bottom. She disappeared after about 2 weeks of doing that. But it was very different than somebody trying to get cardio.
Fit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean okay. So intention does the person have to seek their own heart and think, what, like our dear writer inner, does she have to seek her heart and say, wait, am I riding my bike in a bikini? Because I kind of remember the way those catcalls felt, and that's a little bit of what I'm going for.
So she is clearly doing it for purpose with intention, but she's worried about being perceived as doing it for attention.
Looking for the catcall. Yeah. Okay. So I think we solved it though. I think we solved it. If you're under 2 miles, the closer you get to 2 miles, the more dangerous it is. If you are riding your bike with purpose, you have to have you can't just be like fully cruising if you're in your bathers, right? You have to have head down. I'm going somewhere. I was somewhere at the beach swimming. I am going somewhere, home or office. I'm not lingering out here for your eyeballs to look me up and down.
Totally agree.
I think you're good.
I think you're good. I think this also, we didn't discuss it, but it has to do with dry time of the wetsuit or of the bathing suit. So it's like, that's kind of how I do it. If I'm walking back to the car or a long distance, it's like, my bathing suit is going to dry off in this amount of time. That's the appropriate amount of time to walk. From that point, it turns into sweatiness, which is a problem.
The other bad thing too, and well worth avoiding, particularly for men's, though I guess for women's too, is when you've been in the ocean swim and you put your t-shirt on and your trunks are dry. Later on, you look down and you have that salt rim at the bottom, like a salt crescent at the bottom of your t-shirt that is crunchy. It's lame looking, and for the women's, the salt
Yeah.
breasts and like is for some reason, even though that should signify, hey, this person is an outdoor adventurer, it signifies like that bum can't take care of themselves.
That bum is very sweaty.
Yeah.
Well, my final thought on this, I want to bring it back to what you mentioned, which is maybe she needs to comment on this part. Do you miss those cat calls?
Yeah. Search your heart. Search your heart. Was a little bit of you going for one?
Why'd you bring it up if you didn't miss them a little bit?
Yep.
I know it can be offensive and problematic, and you don't want too many. And when you were a kid, maybe it made you feel uncomfortable. But do you miss it a little bit?
Tiny little.
I'm not asking because I'm looking to catcall anybody. I'm just curious.
Little cat call hole sized hole in your heart.
Do you, Chaz Smith, get less attention from female strangers than you did when you were younger?
I don't think I ever got much attention, but absolutely, I would think lots less now, as in no attention.
Does it hurt you a little bit? Does it bother you?
No, thankfully, I think I went from like 1 mile an hour to 0 miles an hour, so it wasn't really that noticeable.
No cat calls when you were young?
Nope. Sorry about it. Sorry about it, ladies.
Bummer, man.
I didn't bike around in my Speedos enough.
That's true. All right. Well, good. I think we solved that. Thank you, listener submission. And thank you. Oh, by the way, she went on to say after that, she said, anyways, love the podcast. Has got me through many work days, late nights, getting babies in bed. And we need Mama Karen Howard back on for a mid-season WSL recap. What did she think of Anat Leilior versus Stephanie Gilmore in El Salvador? The whole heat, the commentators were only talking about what a legend Stephanie is, but Anat ripped her apart, and Stephanie couldn't even stay on her feet. Also, Chrissy Cote was literally jinxing athletes constantly. It was bizarre. Would also love a grit slap with Pinch My Salt mashup live WSL Finals Day commentary. And why don't you bring in Karen and Devin and Britt Merrick into the booth for that one? Okay, back to work. Bye.
Love it. All of it.
Great suggestions.
Yep.
All right. Well, since we did lots of good hard work, I think we deserve a break, and then we'll be back with Barrel or Nah. All right, Chaz, you ready for Barrel or Nahs?
I cannot wait.
All right. Well, this comes from not only the Pros in the Wild story about somebody's favorite surfer being Andy Irons. This also comes from a video I saw this week of Joel Parkinson being interviewed, wherein he states that Gabriel Medina is his favorite surfer. And I just had the thought, barrel or nah, having a favorite surfer as an adult.
That is a great, great barrel or nah. And I'm going to say, it's really weird, but it's a barrel.
I don't know that I have a singular favorite. When I was young, when I was a teenager, I absolutely had a favorite, and it would change periodically. But at any given time, I mean, I had that answer holstered and ready if you were to ask me who my favorite surfer was.
I'll say, I guess when I think at this point of my favorite surfer, it's almost 100% personality based. I mean, I like the style and flow and whatever too, but when I think of my favorite surfers, it's people I know. And I'm thinking that dude, but it's like once removed. I'm not like, me and him are super close and he's my favorite surfer.
So who's your favorite surfer?
It might be Devin Howard.
Really?
I mean, I love, I find myself watching Devin Howard clips almost more than anyone else. And I really enjoy Devin Howard's personality.
So Devin posted something this morning, but not that post. It was the post from a couple of days ago where he was surfing the big swell in Malibu.
And a
freaking
weird ass board.
freaking shredding, dude.
Yeah. No, I know. I mean, and that's like, I feel both age appropriate too. It's not like, oh, my favorite surfer is, I don't know, who's up and coming Ripper Flyboy.
I don't even
Cruz
know.
de Cruz de Nofra. Is that his name?
Right. Yeah.
But I like Cruz. I like Cruz too. Cruz made a funny DM'd me something funny one time. If somebody interacts with me, then they're in my favorite surfer category, uh, like automatically. But yeah, but back to Devin, I feel it's like age appropriate, right? To have his style, his flowy old man style. Flowy dad is Devin Howard.
That Instagram post, I was blown away. Like I know he's a great surfer, but I was like, dude, you were like at the top of your game. The waves turn on,
Yeah.
you're out there and you're dominating.
Yes. That's so. See, is Devin Howard not your favorite surfer too? Now that you think about it.
Again, I'm not picking just one because
Yeah.
I also look at Ethan. When I watch Ethan's performance in Stab in the Dark, I go, man, that's the best surfing I've seen for that style of surfing.
Here we go. As an adult male, adult person, adult female, also adult trans, any adult, uh, I think it's not appropriate to say he is or she is my favorite surfer. You can say he or she is one of my favorite surfers.
Yeah. That's personally how I feel.
Yeah, great. Okay, so that's it. So you can't have a favorite, you can have favorites.
Because when I was a teenager, I was a little bit uncertain in self and therefore idolized others.
Yeah, you can't idolize.
At this point, I see people for, I think, a more multifaceted individual and I see the flaws and everything else. So it's kind of like I like parts of this person, but I like parts of that person.
But like when you hear, read, listen to actors or athletes or whatever, I always like this person or that person is one of my favorite actors, right? And I'm like, that's great. You're an actor. You also have favorite. It's great to have favorites. Why are we taking favorites away? Just
Well,
not one favorite, multiple
that's the
favorites.
point is the definition would be singular. That's
That's
the word
true.
favorite.
Oh man,
I, I'm
what
going
do
in,
we replace favorite with?
um, I don't know. But by the way, is it bizarre to you that Joel Parkinson's favorite is Gabe Medina?
I just wouldn't know why.
He explained the entry point for Gabe was Joel was surfing against him in San Francisco in that Rip Curl Search event back in like 2018. No, it would have been 2008, I guess. Um, and he's like, I'm gonna smoke this kid. Like everybody said, oh, this kid's the biggest up and comer. He's gonna blow minds. And Joel's like, F that. I'm gonna smoke him. Joel was at the top of his game, thrilled to draw this young wild card. He was like a Rip Curl sponsored wild card. And then, of course, Gabriel paddles out and absolutely waxes Joel and ends up winning the event. And Joel's like, what the hell? And he said from that point on, like Gabriel has been unbeatable. So I think maybe he likes Gabriel's
Competitive.
tenacity and
Yeah.
determination.
Well, and I would imagine too that Gabriel Medina would be a whole different ball of wax if you're sitting in the lineup surfing against him. Like the way he, it's one thing to watch on a screen, the way he dominates. It'd probably be quite another thing to be dominated.
Yeah. I just think of Joel as being the antithesis of Gabriel in terms of surf style.
But maybe it belies a little that Joel was maybe more competitive than we all thought.
Apparently. All right. Well, second barrel or not, coming from a listener submission just this very morning, sent me this photo with the barrel or nah caption, yoga in the airport, question mark.
I love the picture.
Woman behind him doing some sort of a yoga pose.
I'm gonna say stretching in public, full stop, is a no barrel.
Yeah. The problem for me is this is so practical and wise. Like you
Of course.
probably should be doing this, especially if she's like laid over for a day or whatever.
Yep.
You need to be doing something, but it's pretty unsightly.
It's dumb. You can. I'm not saying you can't do yoga in the airport. You just can't do yoga publicly in the airport. You've got to go to the prayer room, or you have to be away. Like if a couple people are going to accidentally see you, maybe that is, shrapnel. That's okay. But she, in this photo, for the person listening, not watching, is in between two rows of seats, dead center airport.
and there's plenty of seats. Like, there is room for her to be doing this. I guess my problem isn't the yoga itself, it's people using the airport like it's their living room.
Yeah. No, yeah, like this is something, not that yoga or stretching for that matter is innately private, but there's something about you doing that that is not public.
Right.
Yeah, no barrel.
Yeah, I'm going no barrel too. Again, I understand the practicality of it, but it's like treat the airport like it's a community space, not like it's your living room, I think is the mantra.
And when you base everything in your life on the practicality of it, that's when
Yeah.
you end up with everybody in crappy, stretchy pants. And, like, of course, there's many things that are practical that we just don't do because they are either not, yeah. I mean, look back in the day, practicality, I feel, when everybody looked good, when everyone wore fedoras and three-piece suits and whatnot, practicality of anything was like lowest on the totem pole. The more practicality rises up the ranks, the worse we're all off.
Well, I agree with that philosophy, and I know for a lot of my traveling days, I've needed to do yoga, I've needed to do stretching. You know what I did instead? I went and drank beer.
Exactly.
And it's like, this is going to dehydrate you. David, you should do some stretching and drink more water. And I'm like, I don't know. I think like I'm pretty miserable. I think I'm just going to drink a beer and wait for my plane. And it turned out fine.
Absolutely. We're still alive and walking.
Still alive. It's what you do in the airport,
Yep.
not yoga.
Yeah.
Okay, final barrel or not. I'm glad we agreed on that. Final barrel or not. Men with bracelets? Question mark. I understand rings, even beyond wedding rings. Necklaces, I'll give you a pass, even though they aren't for me. But I can't remember a single adult male in my youth wearing a bracelet. And now guys are wearing them more than women. Those weird beads, fabric ones, little dainty pieces of string. They stack them by the dozen. Sometimes they stack them by the dozen sometimes, like Johnny Depp's scarves. And it's all of male, and it's males of all persuasion, ethnicity, sexual orientation, professionals and slackers alike. Did this happen overnight? And did you guys leave me out of the meeting to announce this? Do women like it? Help and work.
Absolutely no barrel. The only pass I will give here, besides if you are indigenous or something and it's part of your culture to do this, the only other pass I will give is like the Italian mafioso who has like that chain linky kind of bracelet thing. You'll see, that you have to pair with also a pinky ring. I guess, you are indigenous to mafia, so you go do that. Any other man having a bracelet is a one bit of peacock too far.
Yeah. I agree with you. There's ethnic kind of things that we should be factoring in. Those get a pass. But I also don't remember adults doing it other than those couple of examples when I was a kid.
I think there's ethnic with the necklace, right? Like I think your Dominicans and your Puerto Ricans and stuff like a necklace, right? Always have, or as long as I've ever been alive, nobody, not one culture of men is gone on the bracelet. Like that is a straight new
Wait a
addition.
second, though. Now that I'm
I'd
thinking
love to.
about it, when I'm thinking about like, modern Western man, like Southern California man, the beaded ones that are like stacked, they
Yeah.
have like three or four or five or whatever. I feel like that is almost ripping off like Far East culture.
Sure.
Like, do those come from India or something like that?
I mean, I think I have seen men with those who ostensibly say they do, right? They're some kind of prayer thing, but I don't even think they wear those in India, to be quite honest.
I can't imagine where they do, but in my mind, when I see it, that's my association.
That's what makes it worse, though.
Or like the red string bracelet is,
That is that's a brand of Judaism. It's
yeah,
what's
Madonna,
it's
Madonna was
Madonna's
doing
one.
it.
Yeah.
So that, again, I think that person is also appropriating. I don't think that they're necessarily of that religion, So
Well, that
that's
Madonna religion is all new anyway, right? Like that, whatever her Judaism thing, like Kabbalah.
Kabbalah. That's right.
Yeah, I think Kabbalah, or not that Kabbalah is new, but definitely the string around your wrist thing is new. Oh, maybe it's not. I don't know.
My point is the dudes that we see doing it in Southern California, they're doing it for fashion, but it's ripping off something else that
Yeah,
already existed. And so it's a total poser move is the problem for me. It's like, it's not, it'd be one thing if you said, look, my daughter's really into making jewelry and she made me this bracelet. That's why
sure.
I'm wearing it. But it's never that. It's like
No,
some costume jewelry that they're trying to be fashionable with that just looks too try hard to me.
I mean, going in as a man to a store and buying a bracelet for yourself is such no barrel. If you get a bracelet from, what if you get a bracelet from your significant other? What if Lauren for Christmas really thought long and hard about it and thought, you know what my man needs is a little bracelet. It's on the inside of it. It's going to have our wedding date and the birthday of our son and some other, memento-y important things. And it's just to remember us by David Lee Scales.
The good news is no woman ever would.
Yeah.
I can't speak for all women, but to the point of the final question on that inquiry was, do women like it? And I'm thinking, no, I don't know. I think this was conceived of by men,
Yeah.
executed by men, perpetuated for their own vanity. I don't think that they're getting positive response from women being like, those bracelets look hot. Like
Yeah.
you go on a first date and the girl's like, those are some sweet bracelets.
I think you're exactly right. Because I'll see rings or something like that look, I don't know about rings so much, but for sure no bracelet have I ever seen where I thought that was designed with a woman's attention in mind. I think bracelets are all designed to get other dudes' attention. Like, oh, look at that dude's bracelet. I got to up my bracelet game myself.
It is a bizarre trend.
Would you rather, if you had to, you have to, either wear a giant belt buckle or a bracelet?
Can I cover the belt buckle with my shirt?
I mean, you sure, but that thing's cutting into your tummy too.
What's on the belt buckle?
Buck and Bronco.
Yep. Take a belt buckle any day.
I mean, if I see a big belt buckle on a dude, I think, oh, that dude like is literally a cowboy. Or I have no offense at a big belt buckle. It's not my thing, but I have no offense about that peacocking. There's something particularly offensive about the peacocking of the male bracelet.
It is bizarre.
Yeah.
All right. We're both going no barrel.
No barrel.
All right. Sorry, boys. I
Well,
want to get rid of that bracelet.
and there's such, oh yeah, here's what it really is. There's already a male bracelet that's perfectly wonderful, masculine, acceptable. It's called a watch.
And they come with different straps and glittery bracelets on them if you really want to bedazzle it.
Yep. And it's still okay.
Yep.
If I see a dude with a bejeweled watch, I think I wouldn't do that, but still fine.
Well, what I'm saying is this bracelet I've got has two-tone finish. There's a polished finish and a brushed finish side by side. So it gives you a little bit of bling if you want it.
Fair.com/surf splendor.
15% off, baby.
Get yourself a bracelet, men.
I called Austin baby the other day. Like I was buckling him into the car and I said something like, it's cause blah, 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 baby. Just like off the cuff. And he hit me in the face.
Nice, as he should have. Well done.
I was like, no ice cream for you today. And he's like, well, you called me baby. And I'm like, well, it wasn't an insult. Like he's so young. He's 4 years old that he thought me saying baby was me insulting him.
I really like that though. I like the instincts the boy has.
He did not get ice cream that day. All right. Well, I guess that's all we got. 2 grits in 1 week. They're going to be finishing up Rio tomorrow. It's yellow lit to finish finals day.
I mean, it has to finish tomorrow, doesn't it? Yeah, tomorrow's
the
last
final
day.
day?
of waiting period. I mean, or 27th, I think, is the final day. So I guess they could kick it one more day.
Leonardo Fioravanti is my favorite surfer, so I'm rooting for him to win.
Go for the gold, Fioravanti.
And I'll see you next week at a different location.
Out of New York, New York. Oh, yeah, we might have a surprise. Can you do July 8th? It's a Thursday.
Yes, I believe that I can.
Okay.
No, July 8th is a Wednesday.
Is it? Are you sure? Maybe July 9th then.
July 9th is a Thursday.
Okay, well, more to come, but we might have a special surprise guest that day.
Big tease. Cannot wait. All right. Until next week.
Keep work.